Most gamers have played flying games, most notably the Ace Combat series or Tom Clancy's Hawks. You whip a jet around the sky, and your plane carries 99 missiles, and when you fly through a magical spot in the sky, boom, all your missiles are back. But why? It's easy, it's fun. Everyone has been to an air show or seen the movie Top Gun, and what better way to bring the thrill and experience of an air show or Top Gun into your hands than through an accessible and easy game which brings all the explosive, awesome parts of military aviation into your home. Who in their right mind would want to go through the tedious process of flight planning, weaponeering, starting up a jet from cold and dark, aligning navigation gyros, flying to a tanker, and putting every ounce of concentration you have in your body into getting that precious, precious jet fuel. Then flying for an hour, only to get shot down and killed by an unseen and unforgiving enemy? Well, some of us would.
Some awesome formation flight footage for music videos.
Welcome to DCS World, or Digital Combat Simulator World. It's the opposite of Hawks or Ace Combat. It's the opposite of accessible. It's the combat flight simulator that has, let's take a look, 600 keybinds just to fly the FA-18C Hornet. And oh yeah, let's take a look, there's about 650 more keybinds if you want to learn how to fly the front seat of an F-14B Tomcat. It's the let's air-to-air refuel, then fly for an hour in a tight formation, then get blown out of the sky by a Russian Su-27 flanker firing an IR-guided missile that doesn't make your RWR freak out, so you had zero warning. And what's that? RWR? Alphabet soup? Acronyms everywhere? RWR, PPLI, ACM, EW, EWR, DACT, AWACS, MSI, PryFly, AAR, AAM, AAA, and literally hundreds more acronyms. So, this is fun, I guess, right? It's supposed to be fun. Well, for some of us crazy people, it's the definition of fun. DCS World and its community is chock full of people who enjoy the challenge of the long flights and the huge learning curve, coupled with the huge amount of teamwork required to get 50 pilots, each of their own unique role in a strike and their flight, to work together to accomplish the mission. Whether it's a strike on an airbase, or protecting troops on the ground, or defending an aircraft carrier from the onslaught of Russian bombers. Now don't get me wrong, there's plenty of excitement to go around. Nothing gets your heart pumping and adrenaline flowing like when you finally find yourself toe-to-toe with an enemy SAM operator as you try to get your bombs on target and your RWR is screaming in your ears that an enemy MiG is hot on your tail, and your wingman is screaming on the radio because he just ate a SAM. And what's that? Another acronym? SAM? What's that? Surface-to-air missile? And then, when you finally make it through all of that, and you fly an hour back home and realize, oh crap, I have to land this thing on the pitching deck of an aircraft carrier at night, and suddenly that adrenaline rush from getting shot at feels like nothing. But this is what DCS World is all about. One day you could be in a rain squall on the deck of a carrier while a real former fighter pilot leads you in a strike deep into Iran. The next day you could find yourself at Nellis Air Force Base in Las Vegas, gearing up to get in some dogfighting practice with your buddies who have never touched the controls of a real airplane before, and everything in between. Every aircraft flies differently and are modeled in excruciating detail to match their real-life counterparts. An F-A-18C will fly and fight very differently from an F-14B Tomcat or an F-16C Viper. The same thing goes for the weapons these aircraft carry. Ever heard of an AMRAAM? And what's the difference between an AMRAAM and a Phoenix? Want to make sure your laser-guided bomb tracks your laser and not your wingman's? Better make sure you've got the correct laser codes. But this is what it's all about. No respawns, making sure every minute detail is perfect, an endless sandbox, knowing exactly how your aircraft operates, flying in formation, watching awesome sunsets and sunrises, and of course dropping bombs and firing missiles and blowing stuff up. In the end, it's about immersing yourself in a world that very few people get to experience, and the few men and women that do want and yearn for that experience again. DCS World is an extremely aspirational product because it lets people live and relive their dreams of flying high-performance military aircraft high above the earth. Being immersed in that world means no HUD. You want to know how many missiles, bombs, and bullets you have left? Better dig through those MFD pages and actually look at it, baby. I mean, I guess you could look over your shoulder and look at your wings, but what about your centerline and shoulder stations? You don't get a perfect arrow and boxes on your screen to show you where the bad guys are. You gotta look at and listen to your RWR, or Radar Warning Receiver, yet another acronym, that starts screaming high-pitched beeps into your ears. Need to figure out where you need to go to drop your bombs and get that excitement you've been waiting for after you flew for an hour? Better know what an HSI is and be able to look out of the canopy and see landmarks on the ground. That's pilotage, baby, a basic skill for any pilot. Aircraft in every map are built to exacting standards and modeled to the excruciating detail. Every switch, every knob, every button has a function and a purpose, from lowering the landing gear, to slewing a targeting pod, to firing up an APU. This is the most real you can get, and DCS World requires some of the most cutting-edge PC hardware out there to enjoy it to its absolute fullest. So while you're playing Call of Duty with your friends on Xbox, calling in airstrikes when you get a kill streak, there's a hidden squadron of AV-8B Harrier II pilots in DCS who know exactly how suicidal it would be to hover a Harrier over a battlefield, and that no Harrier pilot in his right mind would ever do such a thing. These Harrier pilots might just be one small cog in the machine of a larger air battle taking place, with pilots communicating over actual frequencies and flying the exact same roles that would be present in a real-life airstrike flown by real-life military aviators. These digital aviators could be current or retired airline or military pilots, a school teacher, an aerospace engineer, a baseball coach, or a kid who dreams of flying in his or her future. The magic of DCS really comes through when everyone knows their chosen aircraft and role, and it all comes together to create a successful strike deep into enemy territory. This is true teamwork, and effective communication and your knowledge are a bigger power-up than any perk or ability in Call of Duty or Ace Combat. A great thing about the DCS community is its varying nature. From hardcore milsim who expect you to know the FA-18C's NATOPS manual by heart, to casual dogfighting tournaments. My own community that I've worked to cultivate is somewhere in the middle as we try to build missions to relive moments in aviation history and push our knowledge and skills to the limit, while also including and bringing new digital aviators up to speed. For the most part, we're just a group of people passionate about aviation and want to fly and work together for the afternoon over the mountains of Iran, the forests of Georgia, or the deserts of Nevada. It's very, very cool to see real-life flying skills and tactics brought into DCS World and see them work in the skies of the digital battlefield. But in my opinion, it's even cooler to see someone who has zero experience in aviation, but a drive to learn and get there, practice and train, and eventually become an integral part of a strike package. Unlike Ace Combat on Xbox, communication is an absolute must, and when you finally reach a target area and the missiles and bullets start flying, and you're trying to find your target, avoid getting shot down, keep track of your wingman, and avoid running into anyone in a mid-air collision, people's voices get a little higher and their volumes get a little louder. And yet, all this communication and blaring RWR beeps, flying in a single-seat fighter in combat is a singularly lonely experience within a huge framework of communication and teamwork. In other words, it's on you, but it's also on everyone together to get the job done and the mission accomplished. Sometimes you're in the thick of it, and other times an enemy aircraft whips through the formation, shoots someone down that gets shot down himself, and it's so quick that more than half of the pilots in the mission remain completely oblivious to what happened. In the end though, it's all about having fun, and enjoying something that everyone involved has been passionate about their entire lives. There's something about aviation that really grabs people. And for some, DCS World really fills a spot in their heart that was empty before they started flying the digital skies. Sometimes this passion breaks the immersion as pilots on the way home from a strike start to chat about the game itself or the beautiful sunset or sunrise as they marvel at the complexity of the simulation they are currently enjoying. Sometimes there's funny moments, and sometimes there's honestly sad moments, when a wingman is blown from the sky and you had just bonded with them flying formation to the target, and you know there's no respawns. But that makes it great. It really drives home the exacting nature of aviation and military aviation. Nothing is scripted, nothing is planned, emergencies and failures happen, and digital pilots, like their real-life counterparts, must deal with whatever is thrown their way.
Field 4, can you see if my speed breaks out?
In DCS World, the sky is truly the limit, and is only limited by the creativity of mission makers and event organizers. DCS World is not always perfect, and there's always room for improvement, but the good news is that the game is constantly being worked on by a dedicated team as passionate about aviation as we are. And with a fantastic and ever-growing stable of aircraft to choose from, the future of DCS World is definitely bright. I highly suggest you check out DCS World if you haven't already. You can download the base game with 2 aircraft and a map for free to see if your PC is up to the task. Then I highly encourage your first jet to be the venerable DCS F/A-18C Hornet. One last thing, a huge shout out to all those who support my channel on Patreon, and you help make this channel a reality. I really couldn't do it without you guys. Thank you.